Hi Virgo, I got my cue to start. I put something right on this shelf here right below the camera and I was like, why am I getting this weird glare? Like this doesn't happen all the time. And the first sign for that was like I was getting tired, right? And I just turned on the camera. I was getting tired and my eyes were hurting. I was like, what the fuck is that? And it just so happened to be a reflection of a barrette that's metal. It's rose gold and it was sitting on my moon tray. I have a legit, here, I'll show you. It's so cute. I don't know like when it's from, where it's from, but it looks so vintage to me. It's an incense holder, but I've been using it as like an ashtray or like a jewelry holder. So I was like, wow. And you're probably like, why the fuck are you talking about this? Like, why is this important? It's important because it's literally the moon card. And happy new moon. It's the Pisces new moon. We're entering your eclipses. And I wanted to make this more of a special vibe reading where like it needed to be the vibe to talk about this, and your eclipse will be in 2 weeks. Oh, this little kitty. And eclipses in your sun, moon, rising, or major placements, especially if the eclipse, check the degree, I believe it's 23 degrees, somewhere around there. That matters even more, so check the degrees in your placements in Virgo, and that will give you more insight if this eclipse will hit you directly. I forgot I was heating something up on the stove, and one of my, call it a change in my life, I want to be very aware of when I'm heating something up and my intuition is sparking at the same time. And I also don't want to burn my tongue as much. And yeah, all information to work with me one-on-one is below, as well as my website, payment options, Patreon, where you can get all of this initial content plus the extended readings. I have a new meditation up for Pisces season, but also just for energy shifts. So I want to make these more of a source of you can go back to at any time you need, but I made it during Pisces season. It has like a water theme to it. So that's kind of an adjective for how I describe that meditation. So you can take a look at that now. And so we are just talking about how I had the moon dish up here and how it was that reflection. And even though it's a new moon where it's dark, the reflection you get to see is yourself, like your real reflection, your shadow, everything merges. It's probably why, if you really paid attention around this time, you may notice that you crave more structure around the new moon, especially if you have and you feel very connected to your cycle in life, or even just connected to being a Virgo, because it's very generic to call a Virgo organized. Some of them are organized chaos. I would say that about Cancer as well. They share that similarity. It really depends on the Virgo placement and the way that this either soothes them or irritates them. It's like one or the other, and if they have to do it, they will do it. Does it make them feel good? Yeah, but are they all like that? No. So I just want to like hash that out for a second, but during this time of, you may notice like every so often you're like, I crave organization and structure. Well, what if you just allowed yourself to come back and reflect on it every couple weeks? Like, every 2 weeks, for those of you who like the moon cycle, the new moon is going to show me where I crave structure, and maybe that you pick a couple days or a day or the whole week to work on whatever it is for a little bit at a time. Okay, so we have this new moon in your 7th house. The eclipse that will start the season will be in your 1st house for Virgo risings. Neptune is also shifting this month as well. I have notes. Everything shifting, a lot of shifting. So we're just going to get the read on first card that came out, and then we're going to get the read specifically in love and money. As this is Venusian wave, I'm getting a little bit more specific this month because Pisces season can tend to bring our focus to many different areas. I kind of want to focus on those two to see if if we pinpoint an area, it can also be used in other areas of your life. But if we ask a specific question, I get a better answer even for general reading. So that's just a little bit about my energy, and we're going to talk a little bit about your energy shifting right now. You may not understand nor love this phase that you're in, because some of you, it may feel like you feel stuck, and for others of you, it's this deep contemplation. And what I would say, Virgo, is that when you're in deep contemplation and you have a great idea on something, the way that you can get organized, the way that it can feel less irritated, is if you just work on a tiny bit. Even if you just write down what you'd like this to look like, especially right now. You know, it doesn't have to be developed. This is something that a part of the perfectionism that shows up within you, and this is where people mistake you, is that when you're procrastinating or you're not getting something done is because, like many, especially more masculine leaning, energetic people, or masculine energy leaning people. Yes. Not that that's you necessarily. This just applies to you. That you want every piece in place so that you can move with perfection. And I need to tell you that we need to talk about that, because it's a very fixed way of going about these things. You will also feel that partially because your eclipse is also in a fixed degree. So we have it in an Aquarius degree. So this even relates more to the mind and what you're shaping. Even if if you're someone who needs to put something out there, show more, or just get the ball rolling, it's understanding that there's a perfection to every stage that you're going to. And think of any artist that you may like, or anything that you get fixated on and you really like this style or this person or the way that this thing is. You also then are saying that you like the way it has evolved. Whether or not you like those specific parts of the evolution, you like the way it has evolved. So it's time to apply this to your own life to help ease any tension that you're having, because you may be digesting a lot right now, which means that you're not necessarily doing much externally, but you're doing a lot internally. It's like when you do a cleanse or a detox, like just to relate it physically, because this is Aries going into Neptune as well, and getting to the last degrees of Pisces. And Neptune is really clarifying for each one of us, like what we're very devoted, dedicated to, and what's really shifting, because it will come back up throughout the course of this year. So it's just showing you what you can actually put your energy to. And I think if you pay attention to what you're digesting, and just like, okay, a cleanse or a detox, you don't realize that your body is doing so much that your brain may be even more tired, right? That you may feel clarity in the brain, or you feel whatever you feel, but it's because your body needs more, or you feel like you need to rest more, but you don't feel like you're doing much. It means that your insides are doing a lot of work, is what I was trying to say. Okay? And it's really important that you allow yourself to give yourself the patience to connect your mind and your body. Your body is one place. Your mind may be in the future, or constantly in motion, or wherever it is. Try to connect with the present the best that you can, taking it day by day, hour by hour, like from thing to thing, just doing your best, because it will bring a lot more benefits, power to you than to lean into any anxieties or emotional disease, or maybe doing it with someone, getting really, it's a contemplative time. So also loving that part of yourself, like learning to know that that shows up when it needs to. Okay, let's talk a little bit about love. You may have a plan that you've been wanting to talk about. There's something that you've been wanting to talk about. You've been trying to plan a time to do it. Why don't you plan for the right time? What do you mean by that? You plan for the right time by knowing that it may not be specifically planned by two people, but you can sense it. Something, it keeps coming up in your head to say it, or an emotion takes over. And I'm not saying that your emotions need to take over all the time, but something pushes you to finally say something in a way that works for the moment. It opens the floodgate. It's something that sometimes we can't always plan. And so what you're doing here is planning to be a little bit more spontaneous with what you might need to speak up about at this time. Now, because interestingly enough, the new moon today, and this will be out the day of the new moon, and how in the next couple of weeks leading up to the eclipse, it's in your house of identity and your one-on-one commitments, your marriage, your relationship, your partnerships, your clients, whatever it is. So this may be in a few fields. And what it will do is clarify and take less weight off of contemplating. You're actually putting certain thoughts, certain things that you've been that you've kept hidden, and now what's showing up with this new moon, with this time, this cycle, is for you to finally say something. And when you should do it, when you feel your best. It's not when you're not doing well, right? And if that so happens that that's the time that it comes up, totally get it. But the best time to do it is when you are feeling good about yourself, and not in a way that's egotistical either. This is just like you getting your shit together. You know what you're going to say. You're not just bringing something up to bring a problem or because you need a little bit more attention. This is about you getting the attention you already get. This is about you receiving even more. But this is more so about you speaking up because it makes you feel worthy. It makes you trust yourself more. You may not realize that at this time, but when you advocate for yourself and then follow through with that, so maybe you advocate for yourself and this is what you do. You say, well, what if this happens? What if the same thing always happens? And you have a plan. You have an action plan. As a coach, and as someone who has Virgo in their chart, I need a little bit of an action plan because I'm an overthinker, if you agree with that sometimes. So if you find yourself overthinking, it's coming back to this 9 of Pentacles energy where you're like, no, I'm good. Like they want me so bad. Like if you're in a relationship and you're feeling insecure and it's really about you, it's starting to direct that loving energy instead of trying to project it and source it elsewhere. It's getting it from yourself first, because this is the codependent axis. So we're going to talk about it. Okay, we're also going to pull those cards. This is about you feeling yourself in a way that when you speak up, you're integrating, right? You're integrating something. You're not speaking up and then falling backwards. You're speaking up and moving forward. So you have a plan, like maybe you didn't in the past, but no matter which way it goes, so that you can also be, because like if you're someone who's always having the same conversation with someone, this can be a difficult concept, but I really like it. It's from Kabbalah and it's called evil lying. And I also wear an evil eye, and I love learning whatever I can and whatever it comes across to learn a little bit more about each culture who has that in their within their culture, within their religion, within their spiritual practice, whatever it is. And in Kabbalah, evil eyeing is when you go into something and you assume someone's character, and you like it's just unaware that you're doing it, but you say something and it could be a jab or it could be this. It's like, it's especially always assuming something negative. It's always portrayed in like more of a negative way. And then someone does that. But what you can do is bring to the table like, hey, I know and it's probably best to do it in that moment. But if not, and that maybe that's when it happens, like in the moment, you can finally show up differently, which changes the course of things, which is also interesting because it's what I initially wrote down. Now I'm just thinking of it, is like you can finally implement the grounded sense of self-worth in your relationship, or if you're forming new relationships, because you take yourself serious enough. You take yourself serious enough that you're like, hey, like I'm going to be honest with you and a little bit more vulnerable and say, I'm working on shifting this version of me or this part of me that, you know, it's not because, and it may be because it bothers or it comes across as a certain way to people or to you, but really it's because I don't want to be this person anymore. That's very specific for you, Virgo. It's because you don't want to be this person anymore, that you want to change your character. So you'd like support in that. So you can understand that we have this presumptive words that we sometimes can say to each other, if that is the case for you, or actions or whatever it is in your initial relationship or in friendships even, right? Like wherever this exists in your life, if it's in work and you finally have to speak up for yourself, it's about addressing any shadow and anything that you find under this moon cycle and say, how can I use this to empower myself to shift for the better for me? If that's what you're wanting, right? If you're wanting that growth, maybe you're contemplating like, where can I show up and ask for exactly what I need at exactly the right time? Because if you haven't noticed, that's what people do with you. And usually like you have it. You're just like, yeah, here's the answer. Here's the thing. Okay, I got you with this. Like, I got you with that. And maybe you don't realize how much you just got people. And like, because you're not allowing yourself to let people get you enough. You're not allowing yourself to receive enough, right? Which would also be more under the feminine side, right? There are some people who are more masculine and like know that they are always going to be fine, taken care of, they're doing their work, they're still working hard or whatever. And it's that deep sense of trust that connects with the feminine, right? It's that deep sense of trust that you have in your life right now, in your abundance, and that whatever's showing up for you is ultimately for you to recognize that you can handle the information. It's time. It's the right time to receive this information. It's the right time to implement this, and everything is also supporting you. The energy is supporting you. So we're going to keep that out for money as well, because we have the Ace of Cups. And because there's so much water with those two, I will share something that I learned from a tarot reader who has taught me a lot. And she has said that water leakage or water through the cracks or wherever water, even within the house, it has to be a repair, is usually a sign of abundance. And even though it's frustrating, it's just like the evil eyeing, even though it can be frustrating to shift that narrative and see something, like it could be like, well, isn't that spiritual bypass, you know, positive thinking? It's like, no, if you're frustrated and you still say that, you're feeling through that frustration. So eventually you come to see it as a sign of maybe abundance, and maybe you haven't been taking it that way or taking the hint of whatever it may be. It's noticing, also counting your blessings in your life. Like, where in your life do you have, is it social, money, time? Like, what is your version of luxury is also what's being asked of you during this time of like, you might be codependent in certain ways. So what are the ways, right? And you might start with one place and notice where it shows up in another place. And a lot of times if we take Venus, it's our pleasures in life as well. So all right, so for money, we can relate this to money too, but I'm going to specifically pull a couple cards for money. Okay. For money, we have the Devil, the 9, another 9. This is also a 9-year numerology. I'm not a numerologist, but I've learned a little bit about it. And the best, simplest way I can say is it's a year of endings. It's a year, and you can look up your personal year. So you'll take your... You can go look that up. I'm not going to divert us too much, but you can take your number and put it together with the year number this year, which is a 9, and find your own personal year as well. But the 9 that's showing up is that there are endings happening, whether it be a relationship or the way in which you relate to others, the way in which you've shown up and identified yourself. This has been what's been taking from your life force. You may not have realized, but the control of you navigating or bending or being too flexible and then being super rigid in other ways, that time is now coming to an end. It has to. If you want to build on what you're building on, it's time. It's time for it to come to an end. I think it's actually pretty beautiful that the eclipse is an Aquarian degree, being that Pluto's in Aquarius and that has left Capricorn. There also may be in this season, in this Pisces season, a Capricorn that shows up. And it really would, whether it's a positive or negative, whatever an interaction is, yes, it leads to great things, but there's something that you are letting go of. You may have to have you may have had to address some triggers that show up in your mind that have to do with maybe the father figure, how it got passed down from your father figure. So even if, they may have ended up taking care of it, if you think back specifically to their reactions about how things would fall apart or what money looked like, their energy in giving money away, what their initial reaction is, and then the way that they respond when they actually go do it, and everything in between. What did money look like to them? Or it's a part of you that controls your money, and having boundaries around it. If you can think back to when you started that, or if you're starting it now and you're starting to reshape your mind, it may be bringing you to a certain place in your mind. But truthfully, it's closing up a cycle. It's closing up this cycle so that you think of money differently, so that you think of your energy differently, love money, how you spend your energy, how you spend your time, and also how much of your time is spent doing, receiving. You kind of just start to really see where in your life this is impacting your abundance. Because if you want it to, not will it only show up during this time of the new moon, but during the course of the next few weeks, you will notice like what comes up in your mind about it, what you're so attached to about it. It's this change in the way that you're feeling about revealing who you are and being less controlled or less flexible with others, but really standing firm in this version of yourself as you shift and change. Yes, there will be uncomfortable parts, but there will also be plenty of abundance, a lot of support, a lot of help, could be financially. That the direction that you're going in, even though you're going through something internal, just like with a cleanse or a detox, externally, there may be things that show up in your life that are smaller manifestations of the bigger one. So it's time to take that into account as well. And whatever you're letting go of is clearing up space for the bigger idea that may take some time, but the initial startup energy is really important. The initial start into change and shift, that's the flow, that's the momentum. And it looks like your momentum is, you have a lot of momentum in that area. It looks like there's a time of regeneration in terms of both your romantic life, whether single or not, and your financial life. That whatever you're experiencing has been for a while, and now you're feeling like, okay, I feel like it's time for a shift, and I want to obviously be a part of this shift, whether the eclipses bring me with them or not, which they will. But you can really learn something here, which is, if not the whole point. Not just to know, but to learn, to understand, right, Virgo? All right. Very excited to get into the next part. That will be in the link below. We'll take a look deeper here, especially love, money, how this interacts, the eclipses that have shown up, the body parts. This is about moving forward. This is about your skeletal system as well. So I'm telling everybody to stretch. It's really important to stretch, but pay attention as you stretch. Be more present with yourself the best that you can. And you have the potential to deeply heal right now, especially these areas of your life. So very excited to get further into it with you. There is also a Pisces new moon reading out where I do an intuitive pull for each sign. You can take a look at your sign. There are timestamps in it. That was just released a few days ago, so if you want to take a look, it's also under Moon Vibes playlist. And we'll see you in the next part, Virgo.